Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. The wild weather swept up to the North Island today with a 10-metre wave recorded as huge swells hammered Wellington's coastline. A catamaran was smashed to bits against the seawall in Lowry Bay, and most Interislander and Bluebridge ferries were unable to leave the harbour. Flights in and out of the capital were cancelled as winds gusted up to 133 kilometres per hour. In the South Island, there was snow in the high country and flooding down below. And sometimes it was really hard to find a little patch of dry land. Alexa Cook begins our coverage from a wet and windy Wellington.
There was no cruising on the Interislander this morning. It was more of a roller coaster ride. The Kaitaki was the only ferry to make it across the Cook Strait today, and it was far from smooth sailing.
There was 5.5 metre swells and 70-knot gusts, so that's 130 kilometres per hour. Our ships are, of a size and ability to go out in fairly rough conditions.
The Bluebridge attempted a crossing but had to abort its morning sailing to Picton, circling the Wellington harbour for nearly 3 hours because it couldn't dock.
They said that they're going to try and get us off as soon as possible, but the winds are too strong to let us off.
Finally, the wind eased enough for the ferry to dock but left passengers stranded.
We've been here since like 4 o'clock this morning.
Canterbury, and then we're going to a hotel.
We want to go to Kaikoura, so we're a bit disappointed.
Smaller boats were no match for the raging ocean. Mother Nature smashed this catamaran to smithereens in Eastbourne and turned this person's seaside commute into a treacherous wave-dodging exercise. While up in the air, planes wobbled their way across the harbour before Wellington Airport announced all flights were cancelled because of gale force winds.
We have to negotiate with grandparents to look after the children and the dog and workplaces and everything.
I missed out on a skiing trip with some friends, so it is what it is.
Never seen anything like this before, especially with all the people just like, it's pretty manic out here.
Some jets attempted to land, including a flight from Brisbane, which was eventually diverted to Christchurch. The capital giving visitors anything but a warm welcome on one of its wildest days this winter.
Oh dear, Alexa, when is this wild Wellington weather expected to ease?
Well, the swells are expected to peak here this evening, and then they're going to ease off to between 5 and 7 metres. But there is still a swell warning in place here on the south coast, and that's in action until about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now, I've spoken to both ferry companies, and they say they're planning to sail tomorrow and that they're going to put on extra sailings to try and get through those stranded passengers and get them to where they need to be. There's also, of course, the airports, and they're trying to clear a massive backlog of travellers because they've had this entire day of cancellations. And it's come at a pretty bad time because we're just heading into the final weekend of the school holidays. So although the weather, it might ease, it's unlikely those travel delays will ease anytime soon. And look, when it comes to power cuts, there's also a few of them around the country. In the Wairarapa, there's about 1,200 homes without power. And then in the Wellington and Porirua region, there's about 1,700. So it could be a pretty cold and windy night for many.
Time to get inside, Alexa. Thank you very much.
And the South Island has once again been lashed by extreme weather with wild wind, rain and snow.
Travellers were stranded by road closures. A state of emergency was declared in Timaru with evacuations overnight, while torrential rain caused widespread flooding and power outages in Christchurch. Juliet Speedy reports.
Yet another night of wild weather in the south meant parts of Christchurch woke up underwater.
I had a look, open up the thing and find my car like this.
My whole car's full of water, but we managed to push it up onto the driveway.
Rivers where roads were. Many homes narrowly avoided serious flooding. Large slips closed roads and power cut to hundreds of Canterbury homes. The winter front brought snow, wind and torrential rain across many parts of the south. Dry land, premium real estate for livestock. Timaru woke to blue skies after a state of emergency was declared in the south of the town last night, with mandatory evacuations to a small settlement following torrential rain.
Best case scenario, it isolates that community and cuts it off. Worst case scenario, those properties will be subject to water damage and the river might flow through there.
But some residents tried to break the cordon to get back into their homes.
We didn't want to be in a position that if the riverbank breached and we ended up having massive flooding, that we had to go in there and rescue them, put our emergency service and volunteers at risk.
Mountain passes closed overnight, stranding travellers.
It's just not letting up. Well, they're getting worse all the time, actually. I was trying to get through to the ferry terminal because this is the only route that I can go because I'm over height, so we're pretty well snookered at the moment.
We were supposed to be in the Molesworth today, but it's closed up.
But all reopened later this morning.
This month's been pretty crazy, really. Yeah, lots of rain, lots of, well, snow up here.
And then there are always the ones who enjoy it.
Playing on the mountains and making snowmans, and I made that one over there.
This is the third big weather event in just 2 weeks in the South Island, with gale force winds, snow and incredible levels of rain. While the Northern Hemisphere burns with soaring temperatures, we're breaking records here too, with the Met Service recording some of its highest ever rainfall for the month of July.
All the predictions under climate change is for more flooding. Rivers are naturally hazardous, and if you live near a river, you need to be prepared for the fact that you could get flooded.
More frequent events causing people to rethink.
I think we're going to move house after this.
Because Mother Nature doesn't always make a great house guest.
Well, Juliet joins us now, and gosh, Juliet, the south has had a really rough run, haven't they? How have things settled down this evening?
Well, Mike, it has settled from the wild stormy weather of last night and early this morning, but it is still wet and miserable here. And the reason people here are feeling wet and miserable is because Christchurch alone has had nearly triple its usual monthly rainfall for July, and we're not even anywhere near the end of the month yet. The state of emergency still remains in place in Timaru too. The authorities there say that will remain in place until the stop bank protecting those homes that were evacuated last night is made safe. So we're hunkering down yet again for another night here across the south, trying to dry out. That is until the next time, which Met Service tells us is next week.
Great. Juliet Speedy live from Christchurch. Tēnā koe.